Alright, now in the first video we got things set up so our player changes scenes, we've got a nice cinematic fade, but none of our data is coming with us. It's time that we made some persistent data so that we can keep track of things like items, coins, and health when we're switching scenes. We'll also set it up so you can pick the exact location that your player goes when he enters that scene. Let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is decide which elements in our scene we actually want to persist. I'm just going to create a new empty game object here, which we'll call persistent objects, and drag that up to the top. And this is just a way to organize our hierarchy and mark off which objects will be coming with us between scenes. I'm also just going to rename my cameras. I've already got it here set with all caps, and I want to stay consistent, so we'll just go to lowercase. All right, so we want the cameras to persist. We'll also bring our player as well as his UI. And then we want all of the canvases for our system. So we'll get the experience, UI, inventory, and shop canvases to come along with us. At this point, I'm just going to create another empty game object to just mark the end of our persistent object section. Now you'll notice that I'm not parenting any of these objects under anything, and that's just because I want to keep things modular so that they all exist in their own right and aren't reliant on one mega object in the scene that brings all of them along. Now at this point, I'm just going to set up a game manager game object, and this is going to be the object that handles all of our persisting. We'll also create a new C# script or mono behavior if you are in Unity 6, and we'll call this game manager. Now the way this is going to work is we're going to create a game manager object here, which will be sort of the quarterback of our persistence. Essentially, every time we enter a scene, it's going to do the hard work of figuring out which objects need to get destroyed and which ones need to persist. All right, so let's get rid of our start and update methods, and then the first thing we want to do is mark this as a singleton. And this has two advantages. One, it makes sure that there's only ever one game manager in our game, and if there's any extras, we'll destroy them. It also makes it so that we have easy access to this script, as you'll see in just a moment. So in our awake method, before start even runs, we're just going to check to see if instance is not null, meaning if there's already another game manager in the scene. Now, if that's the case, we'll want to destroy this game object so that we don't have two competing, and then we can return. That said, if this is the first instance of the game manager in the game, then we're just going to fill that instance variable with this so that we now know that this is going to be the game manager for the game. We'll then call don't destroy on load for this game object. All right, let's persist some objects. So first I'm going to make a header just to keep this organized in the hierarchy. We'll call those persistent objects, and then we'll just make a game object array called persistent objects. So then as soon as we begin the game, not only will we mark the game manager not to be destroyed, but we're going to mark the other persistent objects in a similar way. That said, let's do this in its own method just to keep things nice and modular so that in the future we can read this and understand what's going on, rather than having one giant monolith in our awake that is just unreadable and messy. So in our mark persistent objects method, we're just going to start with a for each loop. And essentially this is just going to go through every game object, we'll call them object, that is in our persistent objects array. So as we loop through the array, we'll first just do a quick null check to make sure that there's actually an item on each line of the array, and if there isn't, we don't want an error, so we'll just skip this part. We'll then mark that object as don't destroy on load, which just means that when we switch scenes, it won't get destroyed. We're ready to run a test now, so let's pop into Unity where we can add the game manager component onto our game manager object. I'm then just going to shift click all of the persistent objects except for the game manager and drag them into our array. The game manager already handles making itself not get destroyed, so it doesn't need to go in the list. We can unlock the inspector, and then let's just shift click all of the persistent objects. We can then head into scene 2, which is still set up in the hierarchy the same way scene 1 was. And now we can just paste those objects in, drag them up to the top, and then we'll want to get rid of a couple of duplicates. So things like the camera, player UI, and all of our canvases. All right, we can run a little test now. However, you'll notice when we switch scenes that, well, things seem to be working at first. We've now got duplicates. There's the don't destroy version of all our objects, as well as the ones that are already in the scene. And when I go back, it destroys the one that was in the previous scene, but then it's still got the ones from this scene. And so every time we go into a scene, we're getting duplicates. All right, so what we want to do here is as soon as we enter a scene, if the instance is not null, meaning there's another copy of the game manager, that means we've got a whole bunch of duplicates here that we need to get rid of. Here I'm just going to get rid of the don't destroy for this object and create a new method called cleanup and destroy. So anytime the game manager notices there's another game manager, it's going to know that it needs to destroy all of its own objects before it destroys itself. So here we'll loop through every game object in this game manager's persistent objects and destroy those, then the game manager can destroy itself. And that way, every time we go into a new scene, the ones that are in that scene will destroy themselves. So now when we go in the scene, we can get some data. Let's take damage and collect a few items. Then when we head over, we'll see all of that's persisting and there's no duplicates. We have our don't destroy objects. However, when I open up the objects in the scene itself, you can see that all of the persistent objects have been destroyed. We do have two problems though. First of all, our camera confiner is not working when we get into this scene. And secondly, when we switch levels, our player's warping to some strange locations. Let's fix both of those. So first off, let's talk about player location. Now the reason that my player is mostly going to the correct place is because I actually copy-pasted all of my tile map elements from my new scene, went back into this scene and pasted them in. I then moved them into place so that we had general continuity between the two. That way when my player switches scenes, if he goes to the same location he was in the previous scene, he'll appear along the right side edge of my level 2. Now to get that fully working, if you'd like to do something similar, you can actually just head over to your hierarchy and check the locations of the tile map once you've moved it. Then go back to your other scene and make sure that it has the same position settings in its transform. Now if you have a perfectly seamless world, this will solve your problems pretty well, as the player will just move to the correct place in the new scene. However, you might want a little more control. For example, I've got this ocean up here that I really don't want my player to land in when he comes into this scene. So let's head into our scene changer and give it a little more control over where it locates the player. Let's begin by setting a vector 2 called new player position. Now that we know where to put our player, we're also going to need to keep track of where the player himself is. So let's make a private transform reference to the player himself, and we'll just fill this anytime we enter the trigger. So right here, as soon as we've entered the trigger and checked if it is in fact the player, we can fill this player reference with the object that just entered the trigger. Now we can head into our delay fade method, and just right after we complete the fade, so it's totally black or white, and you won't be able to see the player making this move, we'll teleport the player to the new player position. That way when we get to the next scene, he'll be in the correct location. Now in Unity, I just need to find out where I want my player to teleport to. In my case, I can see that I want him to go to about -19 and 11.5. Then in my scene change script, I can just punch those numbers into the new player position. That said, this also means that right now if I walk off the bottom of the map, I'll still end up on the road in the next scene. So if you want to have complete control at a granular level but not be seamless, you'll have to make a whole bunch of these teleport objects so that you go to the right place when you get to the next scene. You can just do a quick test at this point, and right now, because I've got one big collider, anytime I walk anywhere off the map, I should end up in the position attached to my road in the next scene. Excellent. All right, all that's left now is to make sure that each time we enter a scene, our camera finds that scene's confiner, so that we're not seeing all those weird colors around the outside of our map. If you don't currently have a confiner, be sure to check out that video. It's a nice short one, and it'll show you how to get that set up. If you missed that video, the camera confiner is just a collider you can put around the outside of your map that marks the boundaries of where the camera can go so that it doesn't show the void at the edge of the map. We've just added the Cinemachine confiner to our camera and then dragged that polygon collider into the bounding shape box. Now we're going to need to actually find this though through code. So let's create a new C# script called confiner finder. So we can get rid of the update method, though we will need start. Here we'll just begin by finding our confiner so that we can actually set its collider. To do this, we'll just type in Cinemachine confiner 2D, call it confiner, and then it won't like that, so we can add the using Cinemachine namespace up top. Because the confiner is actually on the camera itself, we can just use get component and type in the name and it will find the confiner. Now we want to tell our confiner how to find its actual boundaries. Now here we're just going to do a search in our scene. I'm going to use GameObject.findWithTag as it's a relatively efficient and inexpensive way to search, as it only looks at the tags of objects, and if it finds one that is tagged confiner, it will grab that object. That said, we can't fill a confiner bounding shape box with a game object, so we have to actually look on the confiner object and find its polygon collider 2D component. Now we're almost all set now, except that start doesn't actually run every time you enter a new scene. It only runs at the start of the game, and we're going to need the camera to find its confiner every time we enter a new scene. So to do this, we're going to use a new namespace called unityengine.scenemanagement. This is the same one we used in our teleport script. Now, scene management has a couple of built-in events that we can use here, and essentially we just want to listen as it will tell us whenever a new scene has been loaded. So as soon as this script is enabled, we want it to tell the scene manager that it wants to subscribe to its on-scene loaded event. Then when we disable this script, we want to unsubscribe, which just prevents memory leaks and helps our code to keep running smoothly. So now whenever we load a new scene, we'll get a message that a new scene has in fact been loaded, and it's going to call a method called onSceneLoaded. Now at first it's going to give us errors, and that's because Unity's onSceneLoaded event actually passes on some parameters. It passes the scene that we've just entered, and it also lets us know what the scene mode is, which we don't need to get into here, and we won't be using at this point, but we need to put those in the brackets to satisfy the requirements of this method. We can then grab everything we did in start and paste it in here, and then get rid of our start method. Now whenever we load a new scene, we will automatically run the code to find the confiner. All right, so in Unity, our Cinemachine camera already knows its confiner for this scene. However, when the camera goes to the next scene, it won't know where that one is. So let's add the confiner finder to this game object. We'll then head to the confiner itself and make sure that we've tagged it as a confiner. I've already created mine, but if you just go to add tag, you can create a tag for yourself. Now you may sense a problem coming, as now we're gonna have to do this in every scene, and while I just have 2 and it's not a big deal, this could become annoying down the road if every time you change something on your camera, you have to go into 30 scenes and make that change. So let's turn this into a prefab. I'm just going to create a persistent prefabs folder, and I'm actually gonna just make a copy of each of these. Now, whenever we update one of them in a specific scene, those updates will be applied to all their copies in the other scenes. I'm also going to drag my confiner in here, as each scene will have a confiner, and we'll share some characteristics even though we'll change the shape scene by scene. I'm just going to copy paste this new persistent objects section here with all of its prefabs and head over to the new scene. Here I'll just delete the existing persistent objects and paste in the new ones, and then just do a little organization to make sure that they're in the right order. You'll want to make sure that this confiner is also tagged. In fact, I should just drag in my confiner prefab, but I forgot to do that when I made the video here. Just gonna move the game manager up to the top because that's how it is in the other scene. And now on teleport, we can go in here and set where we want to go in the next scene. I want my player to show up at roughly -16 and 11. And that should do it. Now, when we start in any scene, our confiner will find itself. When we head to the next scene, we'll get our fade out, appear at the correct location. We can take damage, collect items, that sort of thing. And when we go back to the other scene, all of our data will persist and we'll be going to the correct location with a confiner intact. I hope you found this one helpful. If you have, please be sure to like, subscribe, or just leave a comment down below. Until next time, this is Matt with Nightrun Studio. Cheers.